Ozark Season 3 has been out for a few days on Netflix, and I've had the chance to watch the season in full and gather my thoughts. We return to Ozark 6 months after the events of Season 2, with Marty and Wendy's casino now up and running, but in return they are fighting for control of the family's destiny. Marty wants to keep the current state of affairs in order, aided by an alliance with Helen and the drug cartel leader Omar Navarro. As Wendy plots for expansion, everything is thrown into chaos when her brother Ben comes into town. I'm going to be diving into this season, explaining what happened and giving you my overall review. There will be spoilers for Ozark Season 3 in this video, so if you have not seen it, I'd advise to watch the season then return for my analysis. Before I get into it, if you want to see any of my future reviews and breakdowns of TV shows like Westworld, Better Call Saul and more, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoy this video, remember to give it a like rating. Without further ado, let's get into Ozark Season 3. Ozark for a while now has been compared to other TV shows out there like Breaking Bad, but Season 3 fully manages to establish its own identity as a show about two people achieving a twisted kind of selfhood by continuously fighting for their lives. This season finds Marty and Wendy in contrasting perspectives, with Wendy acting alone and Marty deliberately undermining her plan to expand the business into a legitimate casino. This is all happening while their first riverboat casino undergoes FBI scrutiny. The Missouri Belle gives the show a new visual canvas for some scenes, while acting as a great reflection of Marty and Wendy's high-stakes crime and parenting game. Ever since the beginning of the show, Marty has essentially been gambling with his own life and those of his wife and children. What drives him more than anything is that he wants to win. It only takes him being kidnapped and beaten by the head of the drug cartel, Omar Navarro, for us to finally learn this about Marty. Flashbacks during his captivity down in Mexico show us him as a kid, obsessing over an arcade game called Beast Slayer. He soon realises this game is totally fixed, and as an adult, Marty has found the ultimate arcade game like the one he played, only there are no respawns because it's real life. The first board of the game required him to launder $8 million, and ever since, Marty needs to keep laundering more and more to survive. By now, Marty's criminal endeavours have long since become a family affair. In the Season 3 finale, which continues the gambling motif with its title, All In, Marty and Wendy involve their daughter Charlotte in aspects of the business. In one particular moment, we see a two-shot of the parents sitting at the table and openly discussing with their children how they will favour with Navarro and outwit cartel lawyer Helen Pierce. Charlotte becomes a blur between them until she comes in with the idea to use drone footage of a fiery truck massacre to put the FBI on the scent of a rival cartel. Meanwhile, their son Jonah is busy barging into houses when he's not already busy setting up shell companies through offshore bank accounts, as we've seen him do previously on the show. Helen isn't the first cartel operative that Jonah has threatened either. There was also Garcia, the enforcer that his housemate and best friend Buddy ended up shooting through a window back in the Season 1 finale. As Marty and Wendy leave for Mexico to meet Navarro, Marty hands Charlotte the keys to Buddy's mausoleum so she can take over the money laundering rotation in their absence. They're putting the family all in, but unfortunately, this creates an implosion too. Charlotte already sought to separate herself from her parents, and by the end of the season, Jonah is in a place where he has a clear picture of the monster his family has become. Moving on to Wendy, with Laura Linney's fantastic portrayal, which I think is one of my favourite performances of the year so far. This season has really let the actress and her character off the leash, to a point where Wendy is a terrifying figure. Over the last 2 seasons, Wendy has become more of a political power player, such that Marty almost takes a back seat to her. Before Navarro kidnaps him, Marty is reduced to using tech on Wendy's phone so he can listen in on her calls with their boss. Although Wendy is fierce, her ambition and increased confidence sometimes clouds her judgment. It wasn't the best idea for her to call Navarro after the horse farm incident and saying, "We're supposed to be partners." She treats the cartel leader like he's a lowered political candidate, and this only results in bad news. Her relationship with Helen also gets complicated with the introduction of Helen's daughter, Erin. Her journey with Charlotte and Jonah lead the three of them to a police station, and ultimately with Erin finding out about her mum's cartel business affairs. But it's ultimately Ben who fractures Wendy and Helen's relationship entirely when he shows up at Helen's house and confronts her, telling Erin the truth about what her mother really does. He's in the middle of a manic episode, off his medication and angrier than ever. The season opens with a hard-hitting encounter that ignites a gang war, but the fireworks come from character-based explosions. At the heart of this is Ben, the wildcard whose personality serves as both a plot catalyst as well as a affecting portrayal of mental illness. At the beginning of season 3, we don't even know who Ben is. We just know that he's a substitute teacher who doesn't take kindly to cyberbullying in his classroom. We see him label certain students as emotional terrorists, rounding up all their phones and chucking them into a wood chipper. At the end of this sequence, he even attacks an innocent stranger. Bearded and long-haired Tom Felfrey makes us really feel for Ben as a tragic character, one that isn't going to end with redemption for his fractured state. Quite honestly, Felfrey and Linney both deserve Emmys for their work in season 3. The emotional detail and difficulty Wendy faces with controlling him, especially when she makes the hard decision to leave him in the final episode, really does leave an impact on the audience. But it's the penultimate episode that really does serve as a dramatic showcase for the actor. From his opening monologue in the backseat of a taxi cab, offering a glimpse into the mind of a manic depressive, he talks about the good days that he had. He says, "I remember my mind before the thing happened that ruined my mind." Ben has a sweet side to him, but also a dangerous one, and his illness is not suited to cope with the complex and crazy nature that Wendy and Marty have infested within their own family. Ben is a bundle of raw nerves that crashes their civilized, feel-nothing lives. He recognises the lies they are living to, but now that Ben is dead, the lie has begun to unravel. Wendy's brother puts a more personal face on the growing list of lives destroyed by the Byrde's family. The sympathetic nature of Ben is at the complete core of season 3, and it really takes this show to another level. Looking now at some of the other characters in season 3, we can see how this earthquake within the Byrde's family is setting up season 4. Most prominently is Ruth, who has learnt to deal with Marty's dismissive, too busy attitude. After nearly getting beaten to death and consistently left in the dark, she finally decides to quit working for him and Wendy. Her retreat sends her straight into the homicidal Darlene, who went around playing the role of mum and slashing tyres this season before she hooked up with Wyatt, a kid who is young enough to be her grandson. Speaking of Darlene and Wyatt, they make quite the odd couple. This subplot did seem weird at times, but I guess their paths did need spicing up a bit after the concluding nature towards Darlene's poisoning of Jacob and the electrocution of Wyatt's father. Collapsing the two subplots into a new directed one does lay the groundwork for Ruth's separation from the Byrdes. This is the setup in the finale, and it looks like the combination of these characters could be the new wildcard going forward. I'm very intrigued to see how they develop this in season 4. But overall, Ozark has built up the tension this season, portraying the suspense of the power struggle between Helen and the Byrdes right up until its final moments. And the loser was Helen, who went from being waterboarded in the first episode to having her brains blown out all over Marty and Helen in the last one. The final shot includes Navarro embracing Marty and Helen, giving them a blood-soaked hug. They are now all in, and the lost presence of Ben is haunting this bloody ending. I'm giving Ozark Season 3 a rating of 5 stars. I thought this season did a wonderful job of expanding the story of Ozark, along with bringing a greater sense of the cartel's threat as we are introduced to Omar. Although most of the season we see him during phone calls with Wendy, it's the way the character conducts these calls that makes him feel like someone we should be scared of. He's got all the power and he doesn't have to travel to see his decisions carried out. But in the season's finale, we see the impact this will have on the Byrde's family as things become more physical than ever going forward. With Jonah having a somewhat breakdown and Omar's cartel shooting Helen, the scale of threat is going to be huge in season 4. This season, Ben, Ruth and Wendy are the standouts, and I love how they showed these characters at the beginning of the season as ones that are commanding and ruthless in their decisions. But as we progress, the events become too emotional and affect them in powerful ways. It gives us brilliant examples of how you can try to put on a controlling persona, but in the world of Ozark, that control turns into fragility. It's not just story and characters that are incredible, but it's also the score and the surrounding production, which helps to bring a level of tension that keeps you on the edge of your seat right up until the big moments. For me, Ozark Season 3 is the best season yet, and I think this may be one of my favourite seasons of TV this year. But I'm intrigued to see what you guys thought of Season 3, so let me know down below and tell me what you think will happen going forward. I'm very interested to hear all your reactions. For more reviews and recaps of TV shows and movies coming this year, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Again, if you enjoyed the video, remember to give it a like rating. I will be covering future seasons of Ozark on this channel, as I've really enjoyed how the show has been progressing. But anyway, let me know what you thought of the latest season down below in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.